Hello, everyone, and welcome to today's webinar. My name is Rachel Klein, and I will be your presenter today. Today, we're talking about attendance reports and membership. So there are several different preset reports available for you in the membership module, and some can be manipulated in some pretty helpful ways to get out the data that you're looking for when entering attendance specifically. Most of the reports are going to be based on the individual check marks when entering attendance. There are a few reports you can get if you just do like a head count per Sunday worship or whenever your worship service is. But the best information you're going to be able to get out on attendance reports is going to be for going through individuals and actually checking that box that that specific person was there. All right, let's go ahead and get started here. I'm going to go into membership. And then I do want to point something out before we jump into the report specifically. On the attendance entry screen, there's really two ways to track attendance. You can do it individually or you can do it as a head count option. Like I said earlier, you're going to get the most beneficial information by checking it for each individual person. So if you need help on the attendance entry screen, I've done plenty of webinars on this. Head out to churchwindows.com and on the Resource Center, just search attendance entry. But the two places that I'm referring to on reports is going to be this people counted. So if you just have people who walk the aisles and count heads and don't keep track of the specific, excuse me, individuals that are at your church, you're going to want to use the people counted box. If you have a way, whether it's a pew pad or whatever it might be, where you can check the individual people that were present, you will do that here along this box. If you're using this feature for your events or your groups and classes, the attendance reports are going to be the best option for you because they're going to give you the best information out, the most detailed information out, and you'll be able to see trends and not for certain people. So again, depending on how you enter the attendance is going to change what reports are available for you and the flexibility those reports are going to have. Okay. All right, so let's go up to reports and export up at the top, and I'm going to click attendance, and I'm going to go to this first report here. It says summary by person. There's also a summary by event group class. I'm going to show you both of them, but how to know the difference or be able to decipher between the two. The summary by person is going to be individual driven. So the information is going to be based on the specific individual as the baseline. The summary by event group classes report is still going to give you attendance information, but the actual event like Sunday worship or the actual Sunday school class for groups and classes, that is going to be the primary or the baseline for the report, and then it's going to give information based on that. So if you're looking at detailed information about an individual and their attendance, summary by person is going to be your best option. If you're looking at information on attendance based on the event itself, not necessarily the person that went, but how many people went, then you would want to go with the summary by the event group or class. And I'll show you that in a minute, but that's really the two differences or the main difference between which report you're going to choose. So let's start with the summary by person first. We're going to run it for the whole year for this example. And I'm going to come over to the right and I'm going to check the event or worship service that I want reported on. You can also do the same type of report based on your groups and classes. You can choose if you want a summary or detailed information. And then over here on the left, you can specify, do I want to see anyone that has attended any of these selected events at least one time? So do I only want to see people that have come once or more? Or do I want to do this option? I can put in a range so I can see people who came like 10 to 20 times. You can adjust these numbers. If it's 1 to 99, it's going to do the same thing as this one, but this field allows you to adjust the times attended that you're wanting to see, okay? You also have a people tab, so you can say I only want people who have a status code of active, or I want people that are within the age range of 18 to 35. You could use the people tab to put in that membership criteria. Inactive people will be left out by default, but then you can include them if you wish. And then you also have the categories field. So if you just want to look at members or you just want to look at visitors, you can check or uncheck those boxes. Okay. Columns tab, whatever's on the right under visible columns, this is going to be the column or the information that's going to be reported on. Right now we have their name, their times attended, last attended date, so the last time they were here, the last event that they attended, and if you track communion on that attendance entry screen, it's going to give you their communion information. Then you have the group and sort tab. This is going to be the order those people are going to be printed out in the report. Typically, you're going to go with an alphabetical sort here with name. Okay. Fonts and lines, that just lets you change how the report looks from a font standpoint. Okay. Let's go ahead and hit print so you can see what this report looks like. All right, so this report is going to give you the information based on those columns that we had on the column tab. So first column is going to be the names of everybody, how many times they've attended, the last date that they had attended, and then the last event. So this is going to, we did Sunday AM worship, so this is going to be for the worship service. Now, if you have multiple worship services, you can easily come back here and check all three, and then it's going to show you which last event they attended. So it could be any of the ones that you have checked back on that previous screen that will then give you the last event attended. It's also going to add together the times attended as well. So if you check three events on that last box or three groups and classes on that last box, the times attended is going to be included for all of those. Okay. Pretty straightforward report. Detail section, that's just going to change some different options here on columns as well. It's going to be pretty similar report. Let's get rid of communion because we didn't track that. And then we're going to come in here and it's going to give us similar information just in a little bit different format. But as you can see, it's taking each worship service and it's separating the details out for that. So instead of it all being combined, it's going to list each item out, each worship service that we checked out separately. Okay. Let's go down to the last page here real quick. There you go. And then it's going to give you your totals and it's going to reiterate your criteria that you used. Okay. Pretty straightforward. That is the summary by person. Let's move along here to the summary by event group classes report. Again, you have your date range here. You can keep it in the current year. You can go back over multiple years in the same report, or you can run each report for each different year you want the information on. Report format, you can decide if you want it per meeting date or monthly or yearly. Again, it's up to you. If we do per meeting date, it's going to report on any date that attendance was entered for whatever group or class or event that you selected off to the right. Order by date, typically what people go with, but you can order it by division, department, category. That would be with your groups and classes and how you have them organized. Rarely do I see people run the report like this. Date seems to be the cleanest way to do that. I'm going to come to the right and check my worship service. Again, we're sticking with Sunday AM worship because that's where my sample data is. But then I'm going to come here to the columns tab. And again, if you look to the right, these are your visible columns, the information that is going to be shared on the report. Over here on the left, these are the different options that you can include. If you want the average information, meeting average, if you want the general meeting notes, lesson study, attendance factors, or communion, you can move those things to the right. Those are not things you are adding additional information or tracking. Just leave them off to the left. That's fine. This dollar given amount, this is pulled from the attendance entry screen. This is not pulled from donations. So if you're not putting in the total donations amount on the enter attendance screen, when you're putting that information in, nothing is going to show in this. This does not calculate from donations. Okay. Let's take a look at this report. And as you can see, it's giving you each date attendance was entered. It's giving you the event, which we just checked this one. And then it's looking at your members, your visitors, your total, and then your counted column. Let me explain this. Members, that's anyone with a category of member. Visitor, anyone with a family category of visitor. and then it gives you the totals down at the bottom. Now, with that being said, this total column is taking all of your members and all of your visitors and putting them together. The counted column. At the beginning of the webinar, I showed you that people counted or person counted field where you just fill in the head count itself. That's where this information is coming from. Okay? Some people enter in both, some people only do one or the other, but again, it's up to you and how you enter that attendance on the attendance entry screen. If you're just doing the head count field, then these are going to be empty. You can remove those from your columns tab. Okay? Now, your totals down here, it's also calculating an average for you. What it's doing is it's taking all these numbers here of the members and giving you a total of 426. Then it's dividing that by how many events they have attended. So it's adding these up. I think it was 16 or 13. I can't remember what I counted earlier. But then it's dividing it out to get you the average of attendance based on how many worship services or dates you've had. Okay? So if you're ever looking for an attendance average, this is going to be the best report to do that. And that's that summary by event group class report. Okay. Pretty easy report. If you want to do monthly or annually, simply click over here to the right or to the left, hello, and then hit print. And then that's going to give you, again, your members, visitors, total counted, all that information here. Okay. All right, let's look at the next report here. Attendance worksheet. This is basically just a roster that you can print. This is really handy for those Sunday school classes that you have. So there's a lot of options here. So date range, you can run it for the year. A lot of times people will do it quarterly just because the report tends to get really, really long. Or too wide, I should say, if you do the whole year. So we're just going to do October through the end of December. Meeting frequency, let's say we're going to run this on a Sunday school, so we're going to do weekly, and it repeats on Sunday. Include the group class members. This is up to you if you want to include your teachers, youth assistants, you want to check box for those. Additional information, this is from setting up the group or class. Like if you track who brought their Bible or who brought a friend, things like that, you can check to include that on the report. Blank lines at the end, if this is an event where people can come and attend that aren't already added to the group and class in church windows, you can write their names in, include their family category, or include linked parent information if you show parent information on the report. I'm going to go ahead and hit Sunday AM worship. Actually, no, I'm not. I'm sorry. I'm going to choose my Sunday school class, and I'm going to hit print just so you guys can get a look of the report before we go too much further, because I think you need to kind of see it before I continue to explain. So basically what it's doing is it's taking all of our kids that we have assigned into this 3rd and 4th grade class, and then it's given us the dates that we filled in. So this is why I like to do it quarterly, because if we take it out for the whole year, it's going to wrap onto the next page, and I think it gets a little clunky. So I like to keep it down to quarters. Again, up to you. And then this is going to show the child's name, their address, phone number, birth date, and then what their role is within. So this happens to be the teacher. But here, Jake and Blake, these are the actual kids. So basically what you do, give these to your teachers, who's Ms. Miller, and if they're there, she can come in and check them off. The blank spaces at the bottom are these, so you can write the information in. Okay. Now, if you don't need their address and you don't need their birth date and you don't need their phone number, you can come back in to this Fields tab and you can remove that information. And then if we hit print again, it's going to give us a lot neater, easier to function report. But if you need additional information, easy enough, go back to that Fields tab and pop over to the right under visible columns, those fields that you want to see. Okay. People tab again, if you only want to query in on certain members, visitors, or you want to look at status codes of active or birthdays or whatever, you can query on those membership fields here. Row height and column width, this has to do with just the look of the report itself. If you want to make things a little bit wider, a little bit more narrow, you don't like the default that the report is building for you, come in here and play with this. I don't have any magic numbers in here because everyone's going to like a look of a report a little bit different. But this is where you can come in and change it if you want to. This is your sort. This is going to be the order that those attendees are going to be listed in. And then if you want to include the teacher information, if that's something you set up on the group in class, you can specify, do you want to see them at the top, the bottom, or just in alphabetical order? Here's your fonts and lines, and then different heading options. If you want to create a different heading at the top for each report, maybe you have a preschool that has a different name than your church, you could create a different heading for the preschool and then run the reports with that additional heading. Okay? But that's the attendance worksheet. Basically just a roster to give out to the leaders of the different groups. All right, the last report, which is my go-to report, is this just called attendance report. No fancy name there. But what I like about this report is it gives you a really good view of the trending of the people and who are attending. So I'm going to actually just show you the report first so you can see what it looks like, and then I'll give you the options to customize it. So this report, plain old, just simple attendance report. I've run it for the whole year. Again, if you want to break it up into quarters, you can. You can also come up here to the top left under your page setup, and you can switch it over to landscape. So if you want to do a wider date range, you can do that. But this is just sample data, so I only have attendance checked per individual through March 26th. So but it's up to you what date range you use. But what I like about this report is as long as you're going in and checking off those individual people as attended, it's going to put a little check mark on the days that they were present. So if you, it's a really nice way to kind of see, who was coming a lot and who kind of fell off a little bit, or who's been consistent, or who's new. This is a really easy visual way to look at the attendance trends for different people. Also, it's going to give you the percentage present. So again, it's going to look at how many events or dates you tracked attendance for and how often they were here to get out your percentage. Not only are the checks going to be easy to read, but it's also going to give you the total. So how many times within the date range were they here? This little star is for communion. That's printed off to the side. And then it's going to give you some information, a little legend about things like that here in the report itself. Okay. Pretty easy to read, organized report, and then it's going to give you also your totals down at the bottom for how many checks for each day, so how many people were present for each of those days. Now, lots of customizing with this report as well. So you can go in and include, if you're doing groups and classes, I'm just looking at a worship service, but you can include those who did not attend. So if you have someone who didn't come at all within this date range, they would show on the report itself. Indicate communion, include family categories. That's going to put that V next to your visitors. If you come into this Fields tab and you want to see more information similarly to that last report, say you want to include phone numbers or addresses because you want to reach out to people who haven't been attending, you can easily pop that information over, and then when you print the report, their address field is going to be included on the report. Depending on how big your church is, that could make it a pretty lengthy report, but it's nice because it's in one place. But here's that fields column again, where whatever you need to see, you just move to the right. Here's that people tab again, if you want to use some membership criteria to omit or leave out certain people, you can do that. Options tab back here again, you can, about groups and classes, if you want to see detailed information, you can do that here as well. And then here's your date range box. So you can, like I said, run it quarterly, look at the whole year, go back a couple years with the minus year, plus year button. That changes everything really easy for you that way as well. Sort tab, just like the others, choose the order you want those people printed out in. If you're running a group or class that has teachers, you can choose to include them and where you want them to show on the report itself. And then back to that fonts and lines screen. If you want to play with the fonts or you want to come down and change the different shading of the report itself, you can do that. So if you don't like gray, you want, I don't know, lime green or something, you could go in there and change things like that to make it easier to read if you feel that would help.